You are now listening to 1 Timothy 4:13 Project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall.
Welcome again to Project 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'm Pastor Sumrall, the pastor of the Cathedral of Praise. What a privilege to get to come into your home and be with you tonight and just read through the Bible together. We call it 1 Timothy chapter 4 Project because all we're doing is paying attention to the public reading of scriptures, following the pattern as laid down in Nehemiah where they read and gave the explanation. So this year we're reading through the New Testament together, and Sister Bev is joining us for Psalms, and next year we'll read through the Old Testament together. All right, so first let's get into the book of Psalms with Sister Bev.
I'm Sister Bev. We're looking at Psalm 18, one of my favorite Psalms, because it gives us a pattern for praise. And it starts in this Psalm with an I focus. I, me, my. But oh, that I, me, my. It's about my relationship with God. God is my rock. God is my refuge. God answers my prayers. And the verse before our reading today, verse 6 says, I cried out to the Lord, and he heard me from his sanctuary. My cry reached his ears. Verse 7, that's where we start today. Then the earth quaked and trembled. Oh, we have an earthquake. When did this happen? When my cry reached his ears, when he heard me in his sanctuary, when I, the child of God, cry out to my Father God. The whole earth shakes and trembles as the Lord turns the world upside down, getting his answer to me. So let's read how the Lord responds to our prayer requests. In fact, make it personal. This is how the Lord responds to your prayer request when you cry to the Lord. Verse 7, then the earth quaked and trembled. The foundations of the mountains shook. They quaked because of his anger. Yes, God gets angry when his people, when his children get hurt. Verse 8, smoke poured from his nostrils. Fierce flames leapt from his mouth. Glowing coals blazed forth from him. He opened the heavens. Hey, there's open heavens. And came down. Dark storm clouds were beneath his feet. Mounted on a mighty angelic being, he flew soaring on the wings of the wind. Is this the usual picture of the Lord that you think of when you think of praying to the Lord? Isn't it we most often think of the Good Shepherd, the gentle Lord? But why does he look this way? Why is he flying, mounted on an angelic being, soaring on the wings of the wind? Why? Because he heard your voice. Because you cried out to him, and he is answering your prayer. He shrouded himself in darkness, veiling his approach with dark rain clouds. Thick clouds shielded the brightness around him and rained down hail and burning coals. All because you prayed. Just picture this when you pray to the Lord. In fact, right now, take a moment and say, Lord, have mercy on me, and ask him for whatever is your prayer request. And then just think of him flying on the wings of the wind. Think of him like this, answering your prayer. Verse 13, the Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded amid the hail and burning coals. Sometimes when I read that verse, I think of Bible radio, because the Lord thundered through the airwaves. That is exactly what Bible radio, that's what radio does. It thunders through the airwaves, and people get to hear it. Verse 14, he shot his arrows and scattered his enemies. Great bolts of lightning flashed, and they were confused. Then, at your command, O Lord, at the blast of your breath, the bottom of the sea could be seen, and the foundations of the earth were laid bare. All right, in this whole section of this psalm, you've got to think of it in terms of why. Why does God spring into action like this? Why is it so graphic? Why is it so powerful? Because that's the extent he will go to when you cry out to him. Oh, you think of it today. Don't go to sleep tonight without making your prayer requests known before the Lord. Amen.
Now let's begin in Matthew chapter 22. Then the Pharisees met together to plot how to trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested. Now, remember the context of this. From Matthew 21, verses 23 to 46, the chief priests, which would be like the high priestly family, and the elders, which would be the Sanhedrin, interrupt Jesus' ministry and teaching in the temple courts during the first Holy Week. They try to make challenges to him. He asks them questions. They can't answer the questions. He teaches them parables that expose their own hypocrisy and that they've been rejected by God. And now they meet together again. The same group of people gets together. How can they trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested? Because their desire is to kill him. Now, you always have to be careful when people are planning to trap you in your own words. You have to learn to be cautious with people. These are traps with your own words. Then they sent some of their disciples. Now remember, the last time they went themselves and got humiliated. So this time they send their underlings to do their dirty work. They sent some of their disciples along with the supporters of Herod to meet with him. Teacher, they said, we know how honest you are. You teach the way of God truthfully, and you are impartial and don't play favorites, all right? In my Bibles, I always write next to this, beware of the sip-sip. People who know your integrity and they know their honesty don't need to play sip-sip. But they were playing sip-sip because they wanted Jesus to lower his guard. When people start complimenting you on obvious truths, they're trying to get you to lower your guard. Now tell us what you think about this. Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But Jesus knew their evil motives. You hypocrites, which means actors, you play actors, you hypocrites. Why are you trying to trap me? Here, show me the coin used for the tax. Then they handed him a Roman coin, and he asked, whose picture and title are stamped on it? Caesar, they replied. Well, then, he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. His reply amazed them, and they went away. Now, I want you to notice, truth always breaks you out of the boxes and out of the traps. But Jesus, he didn't fit into their little boxes. They had the Herodians there, which were pro-Roman government. They had the Pharisees there, which were anti-Roman government. So whatever Jesus said about taxes, he's either going to get arrested by the Romans or he's going to get arrested by the Pharisees. But he doesn't bow to either one of them, because the temple tax and the offerings were never to be paid with Roman money, because Romans' money always had the picture of a Caesar on it. And if you notice, even to this day, the Jews do not have any coins with human figures on it. That to them is idolatry. So Jesus just walked his way out of that one. They only saw two answers. Either one was trouble. Jesus had a third answer. Verse 23. That same day, Jesus was approached by some Sadducees. Now, these are the religious leaders who say there is no resurrection from the dead. And they pose this question. Now, the Sadducees, you didn't join the Sadducees. The Sadducees were the nobility class from the Hasmonean dynasty. All right, these were the blue bloods. This was the royalty, like the royalty in England. These were the royalty of the ancient Roman Empire. They posed this question, teacher. Moses said if a man dies without children, his brother should marry the widow and have a child who will carry on his brother's name. Well, suppose there are 7 brothers. The oldest one married and then died without children, so his brother married the widow. The second brother also died, and the third brother married her. This continued through all 7 of them. Last of all, the woman died. So tell us, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? For all 7 were married to her. Now remember, these people don't believe in the resurrection, so this is one of their mockeries of the resurrection. Jesus replied, your mistake is that number 1, you don't know the scriptures. Number 2, You don't know the power of God. Now, this is the source of all false doctrines. A lack of knowledge of the Scriptures and a lack of knowledge of the power of God. He said, for when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. In this respect, they will be like the angels in heaven. So notice, angels are asexual. Okay, angels are not male and female, they are asexual. So in the same, that's why when people talk about angels and demons having sex with people, I laugh, because angels are asexual, all right? In heaven, as much as I love Sister Bev, we won't be married in heaven. There will be no babies being born in heaven. We will be like the angels. We will neither marry nor be given in marriage. Verse 31. But now as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, he said, let's get to the problem of your doctrine. Haven't you ever read about this in the Scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob died, God said, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So he is the God of the living, not the dead. When the crowds heard him, they were astounded at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, they met together to question him again. Now, I want you to notice two things in that verse. He silenced the Sadducees. These elite nobility with their intellectual whatever. He silenced them with his question. And now the Pharisees meet together to question him again. I make a little note in my Bible, enemies never give up. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. All right, he's not quoting from the Ten Commandments. He's quoting from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's Leviticus 19, verse 18. And again, it's not one of the 10. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. All right. So these two commandments are the foundations of all the law and all the prophets. Love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. Then, surrounded by the Pharisees. Now again, notice he's surrounded by the Pharisees, all these fundamentalist Jews. Jesus asked them a question. Now, here's a little thought. When you are surrounded by the opposition, ask them a question. He said, what do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he? They replied, he's the son of David. Jesus responded, then why does David, speaking under the inspiration of the Spirit, call the Messiah my Lord? For David said, the Lord said to my Lord, sit in the place of honor at my right hand until I humble your enemies beneath your feet. Verse 45, since David called the Messiah my Lord, how can the Messiah be his son? All right, so Jesus went through 1, 2, 3 layers of questions, and no one could answer him. After that, no one dared ask him any more questions. So he silenced the Sadducees in that first Holy Week with his questions. And now he silenced the Pharisees in that first Holy Week with his questions. But he went layers deep each time. Learn to never be prepared with one question. Learn to ask question and then take it a level deeper, another question, and then take it a level deeper and another question. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the services this weekend. We're going to have a wonderful time together. Thank you for letting us be a part of your life tonight. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. May your strength be as your days are. Let your strength be equal to your days. And may he give sleep to his beloved tonight. Good night. God bless you. We'll see you in the services this weekend.
Thank you for joining us today on the 1 Timothy 4:13 project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall. Catch their podcasts on all leading podcast platforms and listen through DZBR 531 or tune in online at www.bible.radio. The Cathedral of Praise is a church fully committed to Jesus Christ and His Word. Our main campus is located at 350 Taft Avenue, Metro Manila, Philippines. For a full list of COP campus locations and service schedules, visit us at cathedralofpraisemanila.com.ph. Tune in again tomorrow for another inspiring reading from the New Testament and Psalms.